Hello everyone, my name is Jiarong Tong, and I am a member of Group D. Next, I will introduce the content of the first question. I'm responsible for Southern Korea's political economic transition in globalization and the challenge of Australia businesses operating in Southern Korea. I will approach this from two dimensions. First, how does globalization reshape Southern Korea's political and economic landscape? Second, what kind of legal game will Australian companies face when entering the Southern Korea market? The first part is about the impact of globalization on Southern Korea's political economy. Let's first understand two important knowledge points. First, political economy consists of two parts: political system and economic system. Second, globalization is divided into market globalization and production globalization. After understanding these two knowledge points, it will be easier for us to understand the central issue: globalization impact and response. Structural adjustment of Southern Korea's political and economic system. Political economics studies the interaction between a country's political system and its economic system. The combination of these two systems determines policy decisions, market rulers, and overall economic performance. Market globalization has affected South Korea in four ways. Through the global flow of goods, services, capital, and technology, South Korea has become deeply integrated into the international market. The South Korea's Australia Agreement (KAFTA) of 2014 has significantly reduced the traffic and facilitated market opening. In 2023, South Korea's total export will rank number 5 in the world. However, there are also external risks, such as the 2008 financial crisis. The globalization of production has also impacted South Korea in different ways. Many manufacturing companies have relocated their factories to Vietnam and India. These countries have lower labor costs. There has lowered the cost of production. For example, during COVID-19, there was a problem in South Korea's supply chain and the global supply chain became unstable. To cope with these problems, the government introduced the New Deal for South Korea. Globalization has had many effects on South Korea. It has molded Korea a deeply country, promoting cultures such as hip-hop to the world. South Korea culture is known by more people. At the same time, it has brought some social problems. The income gap is getting bigger. The culture of the market by the big companies has become more serious. Next, in relation to the second part, the main focus is on the legal challenges that Australian companies may face when entering the Korea market. When doing business in South Korea, Australian companies need to be informed of some key differences in the system of the two countries. Firstly, South Korea has a civil law system with a predominance of statutory law, whereas Australia has a common law system with a greater reliance on judgments to interpret the law. Secondly, the two countries have different types of markets. South Korea is a mixed market economy with more government involvement. Australia is a free market economy with less government intervention. Culturally, South Korea focuses on collaboration and places more emphasis on global relations, whereas Australia is predominantly individualistic and places more emphasis on individual freedom. This difference may pose challenges to business across borders, so companies need to understand and prepare in advance before entering the South Korea's market. According to a research, the risk of corruption in Australia's legal and business environments is low. But in South Korea, the situation is not quite the same. Businesses are at a higher risk of corruption when working with the tribunal system. About 40% of the Korea population believe that the judiciary may be corrupt. For Australian companies, this could present some new challenges. This is what I'm responsible for. So let's move on to the second question from our Group D team member Yuan Yuan.
Thanks, Tom, for the insightful analysis. My name is Yuan Zhang, and now I will address question 2. I divided the question into two parts. Let's deal with part A firstly. Economic development, measured by gross national income and purchasing power parity, reflects national income and cost of living differences across countries. Now, let's see how South Korea fares under these measures. PPP makes international comparisons of real income levels more meaningful, so we use GNI per capita in PPP terms. In 2023, we can see South Korea's GNI reached $51,980, up to 2.3% from 2022. This reflects strong economic resilience despite a global slowdown. Korea's GNI is nearly double the global average in 2022 and shows constant long-term growth, highlighting both economic expansion and a high quality of life. High GNI also shows its position as a tech-driven nation, and its firms like Honda has gone global through value chains. Now let's turn to human development. The Human Development Index measures a country's average achievements in health, education, and standard of living. From the figure, we can view that South Korea's HDI has been steadily increasing since the end of last century. In 2022, South Korea's HDI of 0.929 is higher than the world HDI of 0.739. And the three dimensions of South Korea's HDI are also significantly higher than the world average, indicating that South Korea has a developed economy. Compared to other countries with similar income levels, such as France, Korea excels in effectively translating economic growth into human development outcomes, especially in education and healthcare. Now let's move to part B of the question. I think the most important measure for an Australian firm considering establishing a presence in South Korea is the Human Development Index. There are two main reasons. Firstly, the traditional economic measures have limitations. The GNI per capita in PPP terms cannot show income equality because South Korea's top 10% hold 45% of the wealth, and GNI only offer a static view. In contrast, the HDI shows that 40% of the population has stable spending power and brand awareness, which is supporting Australia brands like Swissy Healthcare and UGG Clothing. HDI of South Korea also tracks long-term progress, reducing investment risk through stable healthcare policies and improving workforce quality. Second reason is how HDI translates into business opportunities for Australian firms based on its three key dimensions. First, in health, South Korea's rapidly aging population is driving demand for aged care and insurance. This is where Australia's strong silver economy can step in. Secondly, in education, South Korea has a young bilingual workforce fluent in Korean and English. This makes it easier for Australian firms to localize, especially in services like fintech and higher education. And finally, in terms of living standards, South Korea customers are moving towards developmental consumption, like eco-friendly and digital products, areas where Australia brands already have a strong reputation for being clean and innovative. South Korea performs strongly in both economic and human development. Its Human Development Index truly stands out. It signals real long-term business potential, makes South Korea an important strategy market for Australian firms. I'm finished. I will pass to my partner. Thank you.
My name is Shuang Wu. Answer question 3. My presentation is mainly talks about cultural differences as an important factor influencing international businesses communication. In the trend of globalization, more and more companies are expanding their overseas businesses, and the cultural difference between countries have a profound impact on the success of overseas operations. This presentation will employ Halfstand cultural dimension theory and the House Cultural Content Framework to analyze the developmental trends of Australian and Korean cultures, exploring whether they are moving towards greater similarity or greater divergence. It aimed to provide insights for foreign companies seeking to enter Australian or Korean markets. The core presentation question is to what extent cultural differences between Australia and Korea reflect the similarities or differences. This presentation will critically analyze the impact of cultural differences on business practice and communication management in both countries. How stand cultural dimension theory, including six parts: power distance, individualism, motivation towards achievement and success, uncertain avoidance, long-term orientation, indulgence. This is a bar chart of comparing cultural differences between Australia and South Korea under the Hofstede model. What caused South Korea to become a high-power society? Historical legacy issue, social and educational competitive pressure, corporate structure and cultural, Confucian cultural tradition. What caused Australia to become a low-power society? Deeply values of equality, political system, high level of the access to education, a large middle class population base. What caused Korea is not usually to be considered an individualistic society. The influence of Confucianism, the political system and social structure, social expectation, community identity. What caused Australia is usually to be considered an individualistic society. Fire goal, freedom, protection of personal privacy by law, responsibility for individual choices. How does South Korea pursue success, and what drives them? Work for living. People are concerned about well-being. How does Australia pursue success, and what drives them? Value individual achievement. The goal is to win. The winner takes all. Reflects the result at the individual level. This is a table about content of cultural framework. In Australia, people like to use clear and straightforward communication and explain the fact clearly. For interpersonal relationship, complete task in order of priority. But in Korea, people prefer communication relies on content to identify meaning, implied and indirect expression. For interpersonal relationships,
Now, now it's my turn to do the question 4. The first part, I'm going to give you a brief introduction of my question. So my question is identify and explain which industry South Korea should specialize in when trading internationally, based on the two series. One is Adam Smith's series, and the other one is a David Ricardo series. So I give you a brief definition of those two series. So the first one is the Adam Smith series. So it shows that it demonstrates that the country should focus on producing the goods which are more efficiency than other countries. And the definition of the David Ricardo theory is that countries should focus on their products where they can bring the lowest opportunity cost than other countries. And I also found some articles which can relate it to my question. The question is asking the question is asking like which industry is more related to the Adam theory or the David theory. So the first one I'm going to introduce is the Adam theory, which is absolutely advantage. So Korea is absolutely advantage in technology or also the entertainment industries. So one of the famous phone brand is Samsung, which has the really um, highest quality of the chips, which is the memory chips, also the consumer technology of the phone brand. Also, the entertainment industry also become one of the absolutely advantage because Korean is very famous as the music, film, or produced celebrities. So and also the music pop music style. Also, the industry choose to trade with other countries are chosen is one of the memory chips because South Korea is the country who produced the Samsung, which is the one of the famous phone brand in the world. Also, both of the two largest memory uh, the the, me- the memory chips industry are from South Korea, while something is electronic and with SK, HY, Nix. So the other one is also, as I mentioned before, is the entertainment industry. Because Korea is also popular in K-pop music, which is kind of the music style. So those are a lot of celebrities coming from Korean entertainment industry. So Korea is more efficiency in producing the cultural content like film or music. The next part, I'm going to find the industries now about related to the series of the David Ricardo. So I found the two main industry, which is one of the one is the green technology, the other one is the medicine. So the one is the green technology. Korea leads in EV battery production, like LG Energy Solution, Something LDI, SQ, and all. So strong in hydrogen energy and solar panel innovation. So why is the green technology can be competitive advantage? Because Korean, although Korean cannot make the price a lot cheaper than other countries, but they are focused on more higher quality products and they can extend the use of the life. Another one is the medicine. So Korea has advanced medical technology and better medical system, which those two factors can build trust between the residents and people. And so this is why so one of the reasons become that can make Korean be more competitive is Korean imports the medicine from China or any other countries. But Korea itself focus on producing the vaccines, so it can reduce the cost. So this is can be one of the competitive advantage. So through the article I'm finding and also through the definition of those two series, I give you I give you the solution like which series should the government choose, which is the David Ricardo. The reason is because Korea as a higher cost country compared to other lower cost countries, they cannot get the absolutely advantage, but they can be the winner in the factors of higher innovation, higher quality, and the highest technology. So the series of the David Ricardo is more appropriate to Korea as its advantage can be expanded and keep it for a long time and also leverage the strengths.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about what trade policy instrument the South Korea government currently employ, which theory of international trade is this use of trade policy instrument support. First of all, Seoul has concluded 21 free trade agreements, giving Korean firm duty-free or low-tariff access to approximately 90% of the world GDP, according to WTO 2024. Second, it still shield agriculture, tariff rate quotas, and safeguards covers 63 food lines such as soybean and garlic, according to MOEF 2023. Third, the government is injecting about 33 trillion Korean won, about US $23 billion into the semiconductor and battery subsidies to stay ahead of the 2 nanometers node, according to Korea Herald 2025. And finally, a new export license list now controls dual-use cheap chemicals under the High-Tech Strategy Industry Act, according to Republic of Korea 2022. Now I'm going to talk about the FTAs and the tariff cuts, liberal logic. So, the Korea's liberal instrument is the FTA network. KORUS, the EU and Korea, and the RCEP have eliminated 98% of the tariff lines. WTO 2024. After KORUS, auto exports to the United States jumped 66% from US $10.6 billion in 2012 to $17.6 billion in 2015, according to Business Korea 2018. On the flip side, the beef tariff fell from 40% to 10.6%, a 74% cut, now on the glide path to zero, according to USDA 2024. Gravity model work shows FTA shaved 7 to 40% off trade costs to Korean firms, according to Kim and Lee 2023, confirming both comparative advantage and new trade theory scale gains, according to Krugman 1979. Now I'm going to talk about the TRQs and safeguards, political protection. Turning to defensive tools, the 2024 soybean TRQs admit 340,000 tons at just 5% duty versus an, an MFN war of 487%, according to MOEF 2023. Colleagues saw the opposite, a safeguard surcharge lifting protection to 80% after an import surge, according to WTO and TPR 2024. The goal is clear: buffer farm incomes and keep food inflation below 3%, according to Bank of Korea 2024. These moves echo the infant industry case, first argued by List 1841, and the modern political economy feel that tariff by rural vote by Kim 2024. Now I'm gonna talk about high-tech subsidies, export control, and strategic play. Korea's strategic trade instrument in 2025, the cabinet approved a 33 trillion Korean won package of 25% R&D tax credits, 1% loans, and infrastructure grants for the Yongan mega cluster, according to MOEF 2025. The package targets oligopolistic grant capture just as Brander and Spencer 1985, ready for scale-driven chip market, complementing subsidies and import license list now cover the HF etching gas and EUV photoresist 25 dual use item critical to 2 nanometers production, according to Republic of Korea 2022. Together, the subsidies pull factories in wide controls, stop know-how leaking out, aligning industrial policy with tech security mechanism, and the last but not least, the implication for Australian firm. So what does this mean for us? Opportunity? First, FTAs grant zero duty entry for education, legal, and AG Tech service, according to DFAT 2024. Joint R&D grants in batteries and hydrogen are available through MOEF Samsung program, according to MOEF 2025. And the suppliers can plug into Korea's mega cluster, according to KETI 2024. However, the risks are the TRQ quota shocks can raise landed costs overnight, according to USDA 2024. Export control rules may delay shipments that contain US origin technology, according to Kim and Lee 2023. Local players also benefit from heavy subsidies, tilting procurement their way. Strategic takeaway: leverage FTA perks, but bake policy contingency clauses into contract, and monitor Korea's annual TRQ and subsidy cycles. And thank you for watching. That's all.